อาจารย์เอสนะคะก็เป็นอาจารย์อยู่ที่มหาวิทยาลัยหอการค้าไทยนะคะครั้งที่แล้วพี่ๆได้เรียนกับคุณไว้ชาคริตไปแล้วใช่ไหมคะแล้วก็ได้เห็นภาพของ disruption แล้วก็ได้เห็นเคสของดร.เรือบินก็คือสอนว่าแนวคิดที่จะเกิดขึ้นใหม่เนี่ยเรื่องนวัตกรรมมันได้มาอย่างไรนะคะแล้วก็
จบวิศวกรรมศาสตร์นะครับทั้งปริญญาตรีและปริญญาโทจาก MIT นะฮะเพราะนั้นใช่ไหมเอสเนาะนะครับเพราะนั้นก็เป็นแนวคิดแบบวิศวกร MIT แต่ว่าพอมีภารกิจที่มาเมืองไทยอาจารย์เอสก็เลยจบปริญญาเอกนะครับทางด้านบริหารธุรกิจสาขา Marketing ใช่ไหมครับเอสหรือสาขาอะไรครับ Marketing นะครับจากมหาวิทยาลัยธรรมศาสตร์ที่เรียกว่าบ่มเพาะสตาร์ทอัพมือหนึ่งของเมืองไทยลูกศิษย์ลูกหาเต็มบ้านเต็มเมืองนะครับเพราะอาจารย์เอสเคยอยู่เป็นอาจารย์ที่มหาวิทยาลัยธรรมศาสตร์แล้วก็มาเป็นอาจารย์ที่มหาวิทยาลัยค้าไทยและเป็นผู้อำนวยการโปรแกรมของหลักสูตร IDE นะครับที่กำลังจะเปิดที่อบรมบ่มเพาะไม่ว่าจะเป็นลูกหลานของพี่ๆหรือว่าจะเป็นพนักงานของพี่ๆนะครับให้มาเรียนรู้แนวคิดการสร้างผู้ประกอบการการสร้างการประกอบการแนวคิดตามสไตล์อาจารย์เอสผนวกกับ MIT ใช่ไหมครับเอสนะอาจารย์เอสครับ
But I'm going to speak in English, but we'll mix it up. Okay, feel free to ask any question you can ask in Thai, and I'll try to do it in two languages. But it's easier for me to think in English. Okay, so I apologize for that, but we'll mix it up. And most of what I'm going to show you is in pictures anyway. Okay. I lost the remote control. So I disagree with my introduction a little bit. Yeah.
Sorry.
Especially about startup, okay, because Thailand is crazy about startup right now. And a lot of the startup strategy I don't agree with, all right? So I'm going to talk about something different today. I'm going to talk about innovation-driven entrepreneurship, which can be used for startup, but it can be used for a lot of things, including inside big companies, inside social organizations. It's a mindset more than it is an activity of starting a business. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so this is my version of the background, but I'll skip over that since we had two introductions already. But the one thing I want to emphasize a couple of other things because it's important to our story. Because I'm going to tell you actually about two things. One thing is innovation-driven entrepreneurship, and then I'm going to invite you or invite people who you recommend to join our network. Because we are creating a network with connections built around innovation. So that's my two messages, okay? And the reason I say that is because I also work or used to work at NSTDA. I've done a lot of technology development in Thailand. And today we do a lot of work with Krasung Wityasat and the finance ministry, who I think you heard earlier. Okay, so it's also about some of the network that we've built. In fact, I think our center at UTCC is the best connected university in Thailand, or at least I will show you that. I also like to drive. So I drive to Cambodia and Laos and Yunnan and Myanmar, and I also I have 4 businesses in automotive. I sell Mazda. Anybody in automotive here? Anybody in automotive?
มี Lexus มี Ford โอ้ได้เวลาโฆษณานิดนึงนะคะ
ได้ครับผมสนใจนะ
Ford Lexus Isuzu Mazda แล้วก็เป็นบริษัทโรงงานทำรถด้วยค่ะบริษัทไทยรุ่งค่ะทำรถ
ไทยรุ่ง
ค่ะ
ครับ
แล้วก็มีบริษัทรถเช่าด้วยค่ะ
ครับครับผมขาย
เอาสั้นๆแล้วกันนะคะ
ครับผมขาย Mazda เหมือนกันนะครับ
โอ้
ครับ
Mazda ที่ไหนคะ
Sequoia นะครับลักซี่กับรามินทรา
อันนี้ Mazda Beast Motor นะคะ
ครับ So I've been in the auto industry for 25 years here and started 4 companies, which is some of the background I'll show you. If I can get my button. Okay. So that's not my employee, but that's one of our Mazdas. So, okay. But I first started selling Chrysler Jeep. So that's how long I've been in the industry. That was 1994 or 1995. So I've been in automotive many, many years. Okay, and I'm here. I'm at the Ide Center here at UTCC. So our goal when we work with people, not businesses, because we're talking about mindset, when we work with people, is to try to encourage people to see different, think big, and act small. And this is our mindset, which I'll try to show you why this is important in a couple of examples. So we talked about startups. Thailand has this dream of startups. So everybody has a dream in Thailand and many other places in the world that looks something like this. You know, it's like, I want the next Alibaba, I want the next Uber, I want the next Airbnb. Or, if I don't start it, I want to invest. I want to be the investor in the next Alibaba, the next Uber, the next Airbnb, that kind of thing. Today, everybody, I don't know about you guys, but almost everybody I know is a VC. You know, every big company is a VC, every young kid is a VC, everyone dreams of these companies, of owning and starting one of these companies. But there's one thing that's being missed in the whole story about startups in Thailand. And I'm going to show you this right here. Anybody know what this is? S-curve, right? Who said S-curve? All right, we got some S-curve experts here. All right? S-curves are very popular for innovation, right? And actually, maybe P. White, he probably talked about S-curves last week, right? Yep. For sure, okay? S-curves are very, very popular in workshops and training programs. But there's only one problem. Nobody wants an S-curve. Nobody actually wants an S-curve. Most people want this. They just want the top half of the S-curve. Right? The dream investment is to be able to buy the next Uber without anybody knowing when it's already successful. So we want to be able to start right here and guarantee that it becomes a unicorn. This is my unicorn. Not like my, okay? And this is the problem. And this is the missed opportunity for us in Thailand, is that everybody is talking about unicorns and believes that we can jump straight to here. Okay? Everyone that I work with at the Ministry of Science just says, oh, we can jump here. And everyone I work with at, I won't say any names because I don't know where you guys are from, but a lot of big companies that work with us, they say, we have cash, we're going to invest in great opportunities. And in their mind, they're imagining this. So let me show you what Uber really looked like at the beginning. This is Uber pitch deck, right? Pitching is also very popular in Thailand right now. Everyone pitches something. Let me show you, these are slides from the very first pitch deck from Uber. So one of the slides was, we have 3 scenarios. This is the actual slide from Uber when they pitched it to investors in 2005 or 2006. And they said, we have a best case scenario. We're going to make $1 billion a year. Or we have a realistic scenario. We're going to take 5% market share of 5 US cities. Or we're going to have 10 cars. Now, here's the challenge that I see with a lot of the people who are VCs and who come talk to me. They're not able to see an opportunity for a company that at this point has no cars, but is dreaming of $1 billion market. Most people want to wait until it's at a $500 million market and then invest. And that's the challenge, because by then it's no longer an opportunity. But in Silicon Valley, there were people who invested on this slide. And in fact, the next slide is, this is their progress to date. This was the next slide in the pitch deck. Here is what my question to you is, would you have invested in this, okay? They reserved the name Uber Cab. It was called Uber Cab at the beginning. They reserved the name ubercab.com. What's that, $100? Right? Online. They filed a trademark. They signed up for an iPhone development license, which I think is also $100. They opened a bank account. That's nice, so they can take money from investors. They found five advisors and 15 potential clients. And their next goal is to buy 3 cars. This is the challenge. Would any of us say to ourselves, this is a huge opportunity? When somebody comes to us and says, all we've done is opened a website, filed a trademark, and we want money to buy 3 cars. That's the challenge of innovation-driven entrepreneurship. The challenge is being able to imagine this whole curve, not just the top of the curve. So that's the challenge that we work with at IDE. Okay? And this is what we're trying to work with people who want to be at the bottom part of the curve and work from zero. Because this is how innovation works. Has anybody, what's this curve? There must be some statistics people in the room. What's this curve here? The bell curve, right? And there must be some marketing people. How does the bell curve get used in marketing when it comes to innovation? Anyone remember? You guys must be MBA people. Product development, right? There's that thing called the adoption curve, right? So in the adoption curve, this is the mass market, right? The mass market is in the middle. And then there's some people out here who will never ever try the innovation. And there's a few people out here who we call innovators, who will be the first to try the innovation, right? That's product development, right? We learn that in every MBA class in marketing. Whoops, sorry. Okay, but what some people may not connect is that this bell curve leads to the S curve. These are connected. By the way, if you're mathematicians, I can show you the formula. Mathematically, they're connected as well, okay? These 2 curves, this S curve is the measure of the area under this curve, okay? These 2 curves are connected mathematically, but they're also connected in terms of innovation. Here's why. Here's how an innovation happens, right? It starts down here. There's a few people who try something new. They buy 3 cars and they try to test this concept which would become Uber. And that's where the start of this S begins. And then if there's success, they buy 10 cars. So they go from 3 cars to 10 cars. And they begin to go up this curve. And if they keep going, they go up this curve. And what happens here? Now people begin to say, maybe there's an opportunity, and other startups come in and try to do the same thing. Okay? But my point is, if we don't do this, we're never ever going to be an innovator. We're always going to be following somebody. Is that a bad thing? Is it a bad thing to follow somebody? No. Why not?
Me? Because it's how you evaluate risk and return as well. You know, being a follower sometimes, you know, it takes lesser risk, but you know, at the affordable, at the affordable return as well. Because early developers or like innovators, it's come with like a lot of startup, selling the idea with other people's money. So
Exactly. Actually, being a follower is great business strategy. It is great business strategy. And I'm not trying to change your mind. All I am saying is, if you're interested in really innovation, come talk to us and we will work on this. But I am not going to try to claim that this is better than this. Following is great business. It's a great return on investment. And in fact, in Thailand, that has been the engine of growth in the past. Right? It's a great engine of growth in the past. In fact, trading companies in the past, trading companies do this very well, right? Somebody else develops the product. Our job is to make it available to a customer here. Great strategy. Except now the world has changed a little bit and there's a lot of other people who do it better than us. There is Alibaba and Amazon and a lot of companies that automate the entire trading process. So being a trading company is becoming harder and harder to do because all that logistics, all that ordering, all of that process is becoming done by computers. Okay? So being a follower can be very, very good business, but being an innovator might open us up to some very, very, very big opportunities. Especially in the developing world. Thailand is a developing country in a rapidly growing, developing region. If we can work on some of the problems here, we can turn them into big, big opportunities. So that's my only message, is for anybody who's interested in innovation, we're going to work here. Okay? We're not trying to change anyone's mind about other business strategies. There's a lot of great business strategies. But if you're interested in an innovation business strategy, we would like to talk to you about being an innovation-driven entrepreneur. Okay? So one of the things that I like to talk about is this concept of a tourist. What's a tourist? นักท่องเที่ยว, right? What's a tourist? What does a tourist do? Travel, spends money. Okay? They travel and they spend money. How do they know where to spend money? How does a tourist know where to spend money? Sorry? They have to save money first? Okay. Okay. Oh, they have to change money. They have to go to super rich. Yeah, okay, I agree. Agree. Okay. But after they go to super rich, how do they know where to spend money? Exactly. Somebody tells them. Right? When we are tourists, and all of us are tourists sometimes, and many of us are tourists a lot of the times, but a tourist always spends money because somebody else tells them that is the right place to spend money. That is the right restaurant to go to. That is the right hotel to stay at. That is the right tourist attraction to go to. We are told by somebody else. Maybe TripAdvisor, maybe Pantip.com, maybe my wife who reads Pantip.com. I have a wife as well. She reads Pantip.com, right? And Pantip.com says, day 1, do this. Day 2, do this. Day 3, do this. Okay? So this is what a tourist does. Now, why does a tourist do that? Why does a tourist do that? I'm going to ask you again. Kun alai krab? Kathy, why does a tourist do that?
sorry, I was like missing. Do what?
Well, the reason I'm not picking on her because she was playing on her phone in class. That's actually not the reason. I'm actually asking her because it's the same answer as about business. I'm trying to draw a connection between being a tourist and being a follower in business. being a tourist has good reasons. So why do we want to be a tourist?
Why do we want to be a tourist?
Yeah, if
That's
we've
it.
chosen to be a tourist, what's the benefit of being a tourist?
You can see many things from, several places of the world, meeting people, knowing, learning about culture, geographic, and a lot of things.
Okay. But the benefit of going to TripAdvisor or Pontiff.com,
To get the
benefit?
to get the best thing, that match with your affordability and your lifestyle.
To get the best thing. Pontiff.com is going to tell us the best thing. Okay? But realize it's exactly what Kathy said earlier. It takes the risk out of our trip. We know we went to the right place. We know we went to the right place to eat. We went to the right place to see. We went to the right place to take our picture. The reason we're a tourist is because we don't want the risk, or we don't have time for the risk, or whatever the reason. But tourists are looking for a lower risk opportunity. Okay? Essentially, they're followers. And again, just like business, many times that is a very good strategy. Okay? Somebody tells them the right place to go. Their wife, Pontiff.com, TripAdvisor, somebody. Okay? Because they don't want the hassles, they don't want the disappointment, they don't want to waste time going to the wrong place. Okay? So here's a picture of a tourist. Right, those guys are tourists, right? Anybody know them? I don't know them either, but let's take a guess. We don't know them, but we can guess people like them. How much are they learning about Thailand? When they come here, they have a good time, they go to where they're supposed to go, they take the pictures they're supposed to take, they eat Thai food at the places they're told to eat Thai food. How much do they learn about Thailand? They learn something. Do they learn a lot?
Are you asking? So are you asking if they're learning something from how we interpret this photo?
Not this photo, but tourists in general when they come to Thailand.
Okay.
Okay, I agree. They learn something.
Yeah.
How much do they learn? That's my question.
That's a very general question. It depends on the source of information. It depends on how interested they are. It depends on where they go, what they see, who they talk to, etc.
I agree with those. It depends. You want to ask?
No.
No?
I know everything. I don't want to.
You know everything already. Perfect. Who's her husband? Single? Oh, that's too bad. Okay. No, but in general, you guys know tourists. We all know tourists. But when a tourist comes to Thailand, they learn something. But no tourist can learn a lot, right? And every tourist learns what they're told to learn, either by TripAdvisor or by a Thai tour guide or by a guest house or by a hotel, okay? So they learn one slice of Thailand, and that's it. The challenge is we do that with business as well. We go on a lot of business tours and get our picture taken in front of places like Facebook or Google or Alibaba or wherever. And if we're interested in innovation, my message is we're missing an opportunity. Because all we've gotten to see at those companies is what they want to show us. Just like when a tourist comes to Thailand, a tourist in Thailand sees basically what the tour guide, the hotel, or what Thailand wants to show us. Okay? So if we're interested in innovation, only if, I'm not trying to change your mind, but only if, we need a little bit different mindset. We need to become explorers. So our program, IDE, is not exactly about a startup. It's about explore forever. So our program is based on what we call Step 0 explore forever. So I'm going to introduce a program to you called the Ide Academy, IDEA. If you have staff or children or a future husband who you think would benefit from this program, we're running this program starting in July, but I'll give you a little bit of introduction about what we do. So every year, we have a series of events, and all of them are to help develop this mindset, which we call Step Zero, Explore Forever. So we're trying to move from the mindset of a tourist or a follower and try to explore. Now, what's the problem with explore? Kathy, I'm going to ask you again, not because you're on your phone. What's the problem with explore? What's the problem with being an explorer, whether you're a tourist or an innovator? What's the problem with explore? It's the same thing.
What's the problem? Actually, it takes more time and dedication to do the exploring than just getting, effort. Because it's more effort of getting the primary information and secondary from other people.
Yep, and there's one other part. The first thing you told me back about business. It takes more time, takes more effort, and
it's time consuming, it's more risky.
We don't know if we're going to get what we're looking for, right? It's more risky. We don't know if we're going to find what we're looking for. That's the problem and the opportunity with exploring, okay? So what we have to do, at least in the business sense, and this is the programs that we put in place, is we have to find ways to explore in ways that don't cost much, okay? Because there is no way to come up with a new idea by being a tourist. Because by being a tourist, that idea comes from somebody else. The only way to find a new idea is to explore. But if we aren't careful, we waste a lot of time, maybe waste a lot of money, very high risk. Okay? So, idea plus D. So, I've been asked to take over this program this year, and we've added one piece to it. The past program was the Ide Academy, and it was built around a program that we learned at MIT from Bill Olet called the 24 Steps. We've added a D to it, which is basically design thinking, which adds the part about Step Zero. So the next generation IDEA program, Ide Academy, that starts in July, has this combination of what we call Step Zero plus 24 steps. Basic overview of the course, we run this on Saturdays, most Saturdays between July and August. And at the end of August, our participants will pitch an idea that they've been working on during that 2-month period. And we bring in some guest speakers. Some of our guest speakers are from MIT. We have some people in from MIT in July doing a workshop with us. We have some regional innovators and some people based in Thailand who are doing interesting, innovative things, like you guys heard about last week. Okay. In addition to that, we take a trip to Taiwan. I find Taiwan to be a very interesting place from an innovation point of view because Taiwan is scared. Right? Taiwan has a problem because China is kind of, we all have a problem with China. It's becoming big and powerful, but Taiwan really feels it because Taiwan's been trying to stay independent. And for that reason, whenever you're scared, interesting, innovative things happen. So we like to go to Taiwan. It's nearby. The food's good, but there's also a lot of great innovations going there. So we also take a trip there during this program. So this is the IDEA program, the Ide Academy plus D. And if you know anyone who wants to join, we'd love to hear from them because we're building a network. We're building something called the Ide Network. And this is another thing that I want to always promote. Connections are important, right? Connections are important in business. I imagine that's one of the reasons you're here, to meet other people who are working in different industries, learn from them, connect with them. The network we're building is a network built on innovators, or people who want to develop their innovative capabilities. Okay? So we consider this a new way of setting up connections based on this network of innovators. This is not limited to UTCC or to TCC. We're actually at the heart of a network that goes across Thailand, which I'm going to show you right now. We run, actually thanks to support from Ajahn Golf, we run a whole bunch of boot camps across the country. And these boot camps give a very intensive 4-day introduction to our mindset, and then people across the country launch what we call nodes, network nodes. And in addition to our help from Ajahn Golf, we also have a lot of support from the Ministry of Science, the Ministry of Finance to help build this network. I'm going to skip through here. One of the things that we try to do in this network is also build outside of business. So TCC, UTCC is very strong at building a business network. But our work with MIT, we're a partner with MIT on something called the REAP program. The REAP program says you have to build a network which is more than just business people. And they recommend 5 groups of stakeholders, which includes academia, universities. It includes the private sector, which the Thai Chamber is already very strong at. It includes government, so we do a lot of linkages with government. It also includes investors, and most importantly, it encourages entrepreneurs. So this is what MIT calls the 5-stakeholder approach. Whenever we build a node, so we're trying to build on things like the Thai Chamber network and the YEC network, but include more than just business. So our network includes scientific researchers. Our network includes NGOs. Our network doesn't include enough investors yet, but we're trying to bring that in as well. We also have a series of activities. You're all invited. Okay, we run these every year. So we're right here. This is the time of year when we run all of our boot camps. So between May and September, we run boot camps throughout the country. We have one every week. I was in Hat Yai Monday, Tuesday of this week. Next week we're in Kanchanaburi. The week after we're in Prat. Every week we're somewhere in Thailand building this network. And that runs through about August. And then we have an accelerator. So anybody who has an interesting idea, including people who go through our Ide Academy, have a chance to join the Accelerator 4-month program following the MIT model, get coached by IDE trained coaches, including a coach from MIT that we bring over every year to coach the best teams, and then join a series of competitions here in February, which is our big national IDE event. So we have a competition, Ajahn Kloy was talking about MIT EF Enterprise Forum. That's a competition we do with MIT. We have another competition called the Global Social Venture Competition, which is with UC Berkeley, which is a little bit more impact-oriented. And we have a Thai version. I can't say this in Thai very well, so I'm going to have Ajahn Kloy say it.
กระเทาะเปลือก
กระเทาะเปลือก. Is that okay? Yes. Okay. Okay. So we wanted to make sure that we have Thai language versions of everything we do for investors, for entrepreneurs, and for our nodes. So anybody in this community, in our Ide Academy, can join this accelerator and get their ideas in front of potential investors and have the potential opportunity to go to MIT, because we're taking our teams to MIT in 3 weeks, the teams that won. So these are the activities we run every year. The Ide Academy runs during this period of time here. Okay, so I urge you, anyone from your companies who you think wants to develop their innovative mindset, or like I said, people in your family, we would love to see them in our program. I'll give you a quick video of what we did last year so you can get a feel for what our event looks like. I'll show this here. So this was Ide Thailand last year. of the video was the competitions, and this is our symposium that we run.
We actually want to make it better to adapt the technology into the people instead of to force people to adapt the technology.
So he's an AI expert from Beijing that we brought in last year.
I believe that many people don't realize the power of a small action.
Brian works for UNESCO, encouraging
Jagdish, are
grassroots
you
innovation.
a barking dog or a biting dog?
It's not just about making the piece, although that's a pretty big part, but the even bigger part is how do you bring it into the world.
Christopher is an artist from MIT that creates sound and light shows.
นี่เพราะจริงๆแล้วอ่ะไอเดียใหญ่ๆอ่ะมันมีได้เสมอค่ะแต่ว่าสิ่งสำคัญคือสิ่งที่อยู่ตรงหน้า
Whipplewee is an architect, but she works in disaster areas.
Start with a
like
styrofoam
floods.
cup. Change the world.
That's
If
me.
you're limiting yourself by your own capabilities, you're really losing opportunities.
And the guy I'm talking
To
to
always
is
be
Randy
learning
Komisar.
and to never assume an answer.
So Randy's a VC in San Francisco. Result of what we're trying to build, it's a network that builds on the strength of our university, but it grows beyond the business network. So a lot of our work is with scientists, a lot of our work with the NGOs and grassroots communities around Thailand, and we're inviting anybody who wants to be part of it. So if you know somebody who might want to join our Ide Academy and learn to explore forever at step 0, we'd love to meet them. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you very much. But we have coaches in Thai. It's a very hands-on program. It's not lectures. So. Sure. And in fact, I have hours and hours of presentation on that area as well. So I'll just give you a short presentation or a short answer now. So the idea of think big is really to think weird or wild or a little bit crazy, imagining something completely new, even if it's on the edge of impossible. So the first challenge is to give ourselves permission to think like that. Because oftentimes it's scary, right? It's a lot easier to do what we see someone else doing, okay? So the first step is the think big part is to allow ourselves to be a little bit weird and crazy. But as we've been talking about, that's a huge risk. So the 24 steps process is to break that up into little steps so that they don't hurt too much when we fail, okay? Because if we think big and do big, it hurts. So what we do when we're working with teams in our Accelerator is to start by thinking big, come in with a crazy idea, but then let's figure out how to test that in very small pieces. And the way to do that, without getting too much in the details tonight, but the way to do that is to work with these people until we figure it out. To work with this group here until we figure out, just like Uber. We're going to buy 3 cars. And with those 3 cars, we're going to learn about the system. And then we're going to buy 10 cars. But even at that point with Uber, they were thinking about $1 billion. They put it on their slide. Our big goal is $1 billion in sales, but they're asking for money for 3 cars. That's think big, act small. And one of the problems with people who are not used to, even investors, not just entrepreneurs, but investors who are not used to this kind of mindset, some investors, if you talk to them and say, you know, I need $100,000, they say, that's not enough. I'm used to investing $10 million and then I look for 3 or 4 times return. I'm not interested in $100,000. But in Silicon Valley and Boston and a few other places, the investors are willing to say, I will back you to help you get to $1 billion, but today I'm going to give you $50,000. So that's think big, act small.
Question?
Sure.
Kunette, can you go back to the screen where you have the logos of various companies, please?
Yep. I hope I didn't forget yours.
Well, mine isn't on there, but that's another.
Well, let me tell you how it could be.
I just want to ask, how do these companies or organizations get involved with IDE? Do they give financial support? Do they give consultancy? What do they do actually?
They don't give consultancy. They give financial, well, there's 2 ways. First of all, they give financial support, which we are very thankful for because we need it, to be very honest. But in every case, we try to say, don't just give financial support. Please be part of this. So for example, yesterday, one of our very big supporters is Bunrat. So every year we give Bunrat a workshop. Their innovation group was here yesterday, and we're working with their team every year to, the money is necessary and it's nice, but it's not enough. For us to build this, we need people who are actively participating in what we do. Midpon is very, very active. We did a 2-month innovation process for what they call the Gen Y people in their company to kind of give this mindset for people within the organization. So we try to have people participate. Again, it's not being a tourist. It's being part of the whole process.
Excuse me. On the beginning of this session, you said that the startup how to build startup in Thailand still not correct or at the right way. I want to know about the reason that what the reason and how we build it in the right way or fit with the Thailand. Please.
Yeah. So if I said that, I didn't mean to say that. Okay. What I said was I'm not going to talk about startups. So there's a lot of ways we can start up a company. Okay, and there's a lot of people working on startups in Thailand. So we're not, we partner with them, right? We do a lot of work with Startup Thailand, for example. So there's a lot of work in different startups. But what I meant to say, or what I consider the important message is, I think sometimes we miss the opportunity to be innovative because there's this rush to get started up. There's a rush to get a KPI. There's a rush to win a business plan competition. And yet there's so many interesting problems in Thailand and the region that if we solve some of those problems, they become great businesses. For example, one of our speakers who runs a Thai company, but it's a company that sells to Cambodia, Myanmar, Laos, Afghanistan, he goes into every new country. So he was in Cambodia during the war, I mean in 2002, 2003, and right when the war ends, he brings in construction equipment. In fact, let me go back, because this is what he calls his S-curve. Let me find an S-curve here. It's not. So while that's coming up, his model, it's a Thai company. He started his company at the same time I started my company, back in 1992 or 1993. Today his company is a $7 billion US company. Mine's not, unfortunately. And his business is brilliant. So he also, just click play now. Go to present. So he views an S-curve in a very interesting way, and it's a model that we could use. Let me get to an S-curve. So the first country that he really did a lot of business in was Cambodia. 1994, when Cambodia was completely in the middle of a civil war. And as it came out of the Civil War, the first things he started selling was construction equipment. Okay? Generators, things that the UN would buy, okay, and aid agencies. And then as Cambodia began to improve, he started selling pickup trucks. So it's going past the United Nations now, and it's the early companies that need to deliver stuff. So he's selling pickup trucks. And then as the market grows, he starts opening showrooms. He's also a Mazda dealer here in Thailand. And he's a Ford dealer in Cambodia. He opens regular showrooms. And then he starts opening restaurants. He's the distributor for Dairy Queen and Pizza Hut, sorry, not Pizza Hut, Pizza Company, and all those fast food. So he went to Cambodia and he started right after a war with basic stuff, and he's grown all the way into consumer products for the middle class. And then he's doing it in Myanmar, and now he's doing it in Afghanistan. And when he presented to my class a few years ago, one of my students raised their hand. They said, okay, what is the next country you're looking at? And he said, I'm not going to tell you, but my family vacation was in Iran. Okay, so this is the way it's a very interesting model, which you would never learn it at MIT or at Stanford because it doesn't fit the US. But it's a perfect model that we can be building here. So I think we have a lot of opportunities to find innovations in the region that will never ever come out of Silicon Valley. And so if you like that idea, you might find the willingness to take a risk down at that innovation area to be fun. So that's what I mean by the startups. Instead of us rushing to make a Thai version of Airbnb or Lazada or whatever, let's address some of the big challenges in the region and make them into great businesses. So that's where I see the opportunity for innovation.
For the Thai version, in your experience, you think what the potential to reach for the startup Thai version?
Sorry, what was the question?
I interested in the point of Thai version for startup. So we want you to recommend what the way to go.
Well, I can't.
Yeah.
Because if I did, I would already be doing it, and then you'd be following me. But but one example is the one that I talked about. That's a Thai company. Like I said, we started our companies at the same time. He was a small company like mine. You know, today my sales are like 2 billion baht. He's $7 billion US. He just kept growing. And that's a Thai company. That's a company based in Lam Chabang. So that's one example. But there's no way to recommend the right kind of startup. This is why we teach this idea of exploring. Explore problems. Explore problems you're interested in, or explore problems you think are important to people, and potentially those become opportunities. Steve Jobs didn't start a company. His goal was not to start a company. His goal was to make computers available to people. Okay? The guy who started Uber, he didn't sit down and say, what's the best company to start? Instead he said, what if we... The story about Uber is quite interesting. He lived in San Francisco. San Francisco has terrible taxis. Anybody who's probably been in the US knows taxis are very bad in the US. But what he saw was there was a whole bunch of cars, which we call airport limousines, just like AOT, right? Just like the limousines at the airport. And just like the AOT limousines, the only place they go is the airport. But they have a license which allows them to carry passengers. So he stopped one of them. This is where the Uber idea came from. He stopped one of those cars and said, listen, why don't you give me a ride? You're doing nothing. Why don't you give me a ride and I'll pay you? And then he started talking to that driver, and the driver said, yeah, I'm free most of the time. Just like the cars at AOT, right? And the guy said, well, what if I make an app and I connect to you? Whenever I need a ride, you come pick me up. Unless you're already going to the airport. He said, no problem. Do you have any friends? Yes. And he added a couple more cars. That's what he means by the 15 clients. That's how Uber started. It was just a guy who had a problem, and he worked on it until he solved the problem. And so if you're optimistic, you can say, are there any problems in Thailand? There's some, right? And a lot of those problems go across the whole region, right? The problems in Thailand also are problems for Myanmar and Cambodia and Laos and Vietnam. So if you can find a solution, you've got a big market. And it's not a market that anybody from the US or Europe can touch. So that's what I mean. I don't know the next model, but that's where we search for models. I have one idea we're working on with a team, a student team, which I think is great. It's maybe I shouldn't tell you, it's a secret. So one of the new businesses we're working on is a business to put a dishwashing service on a truck. Do you understand what I mean? So it's a truck with a dishwasher, and they go around and they provide dishes to street food by subscription. So they just go around. If you have a ran kway teow or whatever on the street, they just deliver dishes to you in the morning, and they deliver clean dishes to you in the afternoon and take the dirty dishes away, and they wash the dishes in their system. And it's mobile. They drive around to different dalat and different places around the city. And that's a business model that could be very successful in Bangkok and every other city in Southeast Asia, except maybe Singapore. Right? So this is what I mean by there's a lot of interesting problems in this region, for this region, that potentially, if we're willing to explore and work out the solution, could become great innovations. So something like that.
Do you think your theory is suited for every business?
First of all, it's not a theory per se, meaning I'm not an academic, even though I work here. I mean, I view myself as somebody who runs businesses and helps startups. So it's not so much that it's a theory, but it is, you have to be willing to work it out, work on that problem until you succeed. And that's where the problem is. We don't know when to stop. Right? The joke about entrepreneurship in Boston, where I went to school, or in Silicon Valley, is if you are working on a startup, you need to know the right time to quit. If you quit too early, you may miss out on the opportunity. If you quit too late, you are hurting yourself. So you have to learn to know how to quit. Now, of course, that's a joke. There's no way to know how to quit. Okay? So it's not so much a theory as just a willingness to keep trying until something works. But that's why we want to keep the initial experiment small. You could experiment with Uber with 3 or 4 cars without too much of a risk. And if it's really not working, okay, you stop. We will experiment with cleaning dishes just at one area over in Hue Quang until we figure it out. But we think that once we can work in Hue Quang, we could sell any dish in Bangkok. I mean, think of a number of dishes that need to be washed in Bangkok, you know, on a day in terms of street food. And we believe we can, well, not we, the team that I'm advising believes they can do it for the same price as the person they pay to wash dishes today. So you get a better, clean, hygienic plate, which is better for the shop, better for the customer, and better for the environment, actually. So those are the kind of things that we will work on until we get it right or until we give up. So we'll try. Yeah.
Regarding the innovation, we think about the startup. We try to funding a startup and hope that it will be the new business for the company. On the other hand, it's not easy to build the innovative capabilities inside the company. What's your recommend?
Okay, this is a very challenging question. First of all, okay, so the question is, we start companies up to try to innovate. we try to innovate inside a company, but it's hard to create that innovation. And what's my recommendation? So the first thing we need to recognize is big companies do innovate. And big companies innovate very, very well. But what people get confused by is the type of innovation that a big company does well is not the same as the type of innovation that an entrepreneur does well. Okay? This is very, very important. It is not correct to say big companies cannot innovate. They innovate very, very well. But they innovate in what's called incremental or sustaining innovations. It's very simple. You have a customer, you add a customer. You have a product, you add a product. You have a process, you make the process more efficient. Big companies do this very, very well. Okay? Entrepreneurs cannot do this kind of innovation. This is innovation that requires lots of resources. And big companies have the advantage to do this kind of innovation. But there's another kind of innovation, and that is entrepreneurial innovation, IDE, innovation-driven entrepreneurship, which comes up with a completely different type of entrepreneurship. And that's where something new comes out which makes no sense at all. Big companies do not do this very well because the innovation makes no sense. I'll give you one of my favorite examples from Bangkok. Although I'm not sure if you use this term, but do you know the term community mall? Like La Villa or something like that. Who started this? This is an innovation, right? These malls are everywhere now. This style of mall called a community mall. Sorry?
The SF development started it.
Okay. I think it was SF development as well. But the more important question is, who didn't do it? The big ones. Central didn't come up with this idea. The mall group didn't come up with this idea. Listen, Central is one of the most innovative companies in Thailand. Their malls are world famous. But they couldn't come up with this idea. Why? Because they have a different view of what a mall is. Right? If you ask a Thai person, I know Thai people. If you asked a Thai person 10 years ago, what is the most important thing in a mall? What is the most important thing? The most important thing in a mall, if you asked any Thai person 10 years ago, the most important thing in the mall, what would they say? She's heard the story, but it's air conditioner, right? It's air conditioning. So look at this stupid company called CM Future. They're making malls without air conditioning. This makes no sense. And that they're really cool, right? They're everywhere. So that's the reason, Central's idea of a mall, the mall group's idea of a mall, big building, big department store, air conditioned everywhere. And yet somebody comes up with this other type of concept which is small, no big department store, and no air conditioning. But it catches on, it becomes very popular, so popular that today Central Group has to do it. The mall group has to do it. They've got their own versions of the community mall. They miss the opportunity to do the innovation because it's an innovation that makes no sense in a normal way. And that's the only difference. Big companies do very, very well at the innovation which keeps going in the direction that they already do well. And an entrepreneur can never beat that. Entrepreneurs do very, very well when they're able to come up with something that just makes no sense at all, but once it happens, it is so cool that it grows. And so your question is an interesting one because you're asking from a company's point of view how to encourage more innovation. I have the opposite problem. I keep meeting entrepreneurs who want to do the same innovation that a big company can do. And I say, you don't have a chance. You have to do an entrepreneur needs to find an innovation that a big company cannot do. Same with CP All. To me, I believe CP All is the most innovative company in Thailand. That's my belief. And I'm not talking about whether CP is a good company or a bad company. I'm just saying CP All is an extremely innovative company. But still today, they have to encourage entrepreneurs to come up with new products and stuff because they cannot do it all themselves. Now, unfortunately, sometimes they steal those ideas, which is not a good thing. But the point is, entrepreneurs come up with one type of innovation, big companies come up with a different type of innovation. Okay? And we need to keep those separate. Big companies need to know what they do well. Entrepreneurs need to know what they do well. Because if you try to do the other one, you're going to fail. Yes?
Kuned, in terms of financing startups and innovations and whatnot, I've been wondering, why isn't there a thing like crowdsourcing in Thailand? In the US, it's the thing, right? And then you have this power bank or application or even a jacket for traveling, and you go into this GoFundMe or a Kickstarter thing. Why isn't there something like that in Thailand?
Okay, so first of all, there's been a lot of attempts. There's been a lot of attempts to make this happen. But I also want to urge you to be careful of what you think the US is like. Because we tend to see the success stories that pop up. Okay, crowdfunding is very, very exciting, but it still only funds, there's only a couple of success stories, right? It's not like everyone is crowdfunding and there's just money rolling everywhere. The few times it's successful, we always hear about it. But there's lots and lots of failures as well, okay? So that's the first thing to realize is crowdfunding has some interesting potential, but even the US, which does it pretty well, it really only works for a certain type. So crowdfunding originally came out for art stuff. Somebody wanted to write a book, somebody wanted to make a movie. It wasn't exactly for startups, it was more for things where there was an output. And that answer is on these stakeholders. So MIT says there are 5 stakeholders necessary for innovation: academia, government, private sector, risk capital, entrepreneurs. There's one missing on this list: innovative customers. So one thing that does exist in a few places in the US, in San Francisco for some products, in LA for movies. This is where Kickstarter started, was in LA for movies. In New York City for some food. In Boston for some stuff. There is a big group of innovative customers who like to try this stuff. And they're willing to put some money in to be here. To play here. So, because they don't have to put that much in. So there is a group of innovative consumers who want to play here. So I do the same thing. I buy stuff all the time, not all the time, but every year I buy some new product. I'll spend $1,000. Not a small amount of money, but not a huge amount of money for some cool product that I think is going to be great. And I just want to support it. And I'm going to be, if it succeeds, I'll be happy to get one of the early parts. But I'm doing it because I think it's cool from a consumer point of view. So I think that's the biggest thing is consumers in Thailand are still a little bit more conservative. And for some good reasons, right? It's not always clear what's a good product, okay? And in only some parts of the US, San Francisco, LA, Boston, New York, and a few other places, there's a group of consumers who are willing to pay in a crowdfunding to be here. So it exists, but it doesn't exist everywhere. And it exists because there are customers who just want to be trying that new thing. That's my belief. I don't know for sure. But there are people trying to make it work here.
Here, one more question. Have time?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I want to know that startup in Thailand, the rate of success still very low. Rate of success. And I think how we solve this problem, especially if we do the mechanism like the incubation center, it can help them or not, and how to solve this problem.
Yeah, so my first question is, how do we know it's a low rate? How do we know that?
think it's like the many partners say a lot about that. I think, on my opinion also, because we on the business.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people say this, but one of the hardest things to measure anywhere is startup success. It's actually hard to measure. So what do we mean by a successful startup? Do we mean something that goes to here and never dies? I mean, it hasn't died. Do we count as a success? Or are we only count the real big successes? Silicon Valley is famous, right? But it's not famous because it has a million startups. It's famous because there's 20 that we all know. Okay? So, I mean, I agree with you. We want to do things better. But I think sometimes Thailand is too hard on Thailand. Right? I mean, I think sometimes we think, oh my God, we're doing terrible. And we keep looking at these other examples. I mean, I see a lot of people doing some interesting things, and maybe we haven't reached an Uber or an Alibaba, but I don't think you can shoot for those things. I think those things come over time. So let's agree we need to improve it. But I think there's a lot of interesting things going on now. I certainly hope there are.
Incubation center is the way to help this problem.
It depends. So it depends if you come to our incubation center, sure. Other ones, I don't know. No, because we spend a lot of time on the innovation side. My worry with some incubation centers is their whole goal is just to teach business skills, teach marketing, teach accounting, which is good, but I think you can learn that anywhere, right? So.
ครับก็คงเป็นเวลาที่เหมาะนะครับเพราะว่าพี่ๆก็รออยู่ข้างนอกด้วยนะครับแล้วก็นักเรียนนอกยังเริ่มเยอะขึ้นนะครับผมจะต้องถูกหวดจากกรรมการหลักสูตรแล้วเดี๋ยวผมก็จะมาหวดพี่ๆต่อนะครับเพราะว่าสิ่งที่เราต้องดูคือเรื่องของการที่จะบรรยายให้เวลาที่เหมาะสมขออภัยขอโทษทีอาจารย์เอสนะครับเวลามีประมาณนี้เรื่อง IDE เป็นเรื่องที่มหาลัยแห่งค้าไทยได้รับแนวคิดมาจาก MIT อาจารย์เอสเป็นกำลังสำคัญนะครับอาจารย์เอ็ดเวิร์ดดรเอ็ดเวิร์ดเป็นกำลังสำคัญแล้วก็ดรเอ็ดเวิร์ดเข้าใจความเป็นไทยดีแต่ว่าความเป็นไทยบางครั้งมันก็จะเป็นจุดที่เราก็ควรจะแก้ให้มีความเป็นสากลแต่บางครั้งความเป็นสากลเองก็น่าจะปรับเป็นไทยผมเชื่ออาจารย์เอ็ดเวิร์ดก็คงเห็นด้วยเราพยายามสร้างสรรค์นะครับ IDE คงจะไม่ใช้คำว่า startup sorry about that นะครับก็คืออาจารย์เอ็ดก็จะแบ่งให้ชัดว่าการใช้แนวคิดใหม่ๆในการทำธุรกิจนั่นคือสิ่งที่มหาลัยค้าไทยทำนะครับเชิญอาจารย์เอ็ด
แต่ผมเห็นว่ามีโอกาสสำหรับ SME ด้วยไม่ใช่เฉพาะ startup
ครับครับคือจริงๆการเปลี่ยน mindset นะครับการมีแนวคิดมันเหมาะสำหรับทุกกลุ่มเพียงแต่ว่าถ้าจะเป็น IDE ก็แบบหนึ่งนะครับเหมาะสำหรับ SME ในการเปลี่ยนมุมมองเราเปิดในเรื่องของการอบรมนะครับนั่นคือ IDE โปรแกรมซึ่งอาจารย์เอ็ดเวิร์ดเป็นผู้อำนวยการหลักสูตรเรามีแผนจะเปิดเหมือนเทปคอร์ดครับแต่เป็นเทปคอร์ดสำหรับเซอร์วิสนะครับในเชิงของเซอร์วิสอันนี้คือเราจะเปิดนะครับซึ่งรุ่นแรกเนี่ยน่าจะเกิดขึ้นประมาณกรกฎาคมสิงหาซึ่งจะเชิญเทปคอร์ดอลัมไนและคนทั่วไปมานะครับขณะเดียวกันเราจะมีอีกหลายโปรแกรมแต่ว่าถ้าพี่ๆสนใจเรียนรู้ IDE เรามี IDE Center อาจารย์เอสก็จะอยู่ตรงนั้นทำบูตแคมป์ทั่วประเทศเพื่อจะปลูกฝังแนวคิดให้กับเด็กรุ่นใหม่ในการสร้าง environment ecosystem ที่สำคัญนั่นคือสิ่งที่เราทำเดี๋ยวจะค่อยๆถ่ายทอดพี่ๆค่อยเรียนรู้เป็นลำดับนะครับอาจารย์เนฟเวิร์ดจะรู้ดีสุดในเรื่องนี้อาจารย์เติ้งอาจารย์ศักดิพลดรศิริพลจะรู้ดีอีกคนหนึ่งเพราะเป็นผู้ในการ IDE แต่คนที่รู้มากอีกคนหนึ่งคืออาจารย์แม่นะครับอาจารย์สวนี right นะฮะเพราะฉะนั้นเดี๋ยวเราจะค่อยๆถ่ายทอดนะครับพี่ๆครับขอบคุณมากๆสำหรับเรื่องนี้ปรบมือให้อาจารย์เนฟเวิร์ดนะครับเอสขอบคุณมาก thank you very much
เราขอโทษผมไม่ได้พูดภาษาไทยนะครับ
ครับ
ขอบคุณมากนะครับ